Sup, compassionate people, and welcome to the Vegan News Friday show. Tons of stories to dive into this week, so let's get right to it. If some of you aren't familiar, kaporos is a secular Jewish tradition, which, let me stress here, is a very small minority of the Jewish population around the world, and especially in New York City, believe that by rotating chickens above their heads and killing them, they are able to get rid of their sins. Now, in their own book, the Torah, it actually says they can use money of some type to do this in place of the animals, but this particular very small minority within the Jewish community has decided that they have to do it this way. Now, this is against multiple New York City health codes, and in fact, protesters and the newest head of the health department in New York City was actually basically run out of town because of protesters, because every year this is allowed to go on in the streets of New York. It is a public safety hazard to humans because of things like the different avian flus and bird flus, but it's obviously even more of a hazard to chickens. Thousands upon thousands are killed. As always in our show, we will not be showing graphic footage, but I will show you the conditions. As you can see here, they come in from the farms in large trucks by the thousands, and by the end of this festival, even the law in New York and across the United States prohibits people from keeping animals from water for more than 12 hours at a time. During kaporos, they sit for up to 3 days in preparation for the festival, and during the festival, they sit there getting dehydrated, some even dying in the heat and of dehydration. Not that a better fate awaits them if they make it through all that. Here's an example video of what they do when they rotate the chicken above their heads. They do this to their children. And one of the claims always made is that the Kaporos Festival in New York every year helps feed homeless and other people who don't have good access to food, but that's a total lie and has been shown to be a lie repeatedly every year as thousands of chickens are found discarded in dumpsters all over the city and not disposed of properly either. The Orthodox Jews who still practice this, which again I want to stress is very few, constantly and consistently like to cite anti-Semitism for this belief, when in fact it's just that people are concerned. And it's not just vegans that are concerned about this. While the majority may be vegans protesting and shouting, there are a lot of New Yorkers who are concerned about the impact on public health that this could have if a disease gets out as their blood and bodies are strewn about all over the city. Openly. We're not talking about in some closed off area. They are doing this out in the open. And the New York City police, the mayor, and the government of the state are allowing this to occur every single year for a week in September. A few chickens were saved and taken to sanctuaries that I've seen on Facebook and other social media, but I hope the Orthodox Jewish community that practices this in New York City or even elsewhere knows that this is coming to an end very soon, and you're going to have to answer to your children as to why you decided this barbaric practice was okay to continue. And if anybody does get sick, you better prepare yourselves for massive lawsuits. And the government of New York City and the government of New York State, you better prepare yourselves for those same lawsuits if a public health hazard breaks out because of you allowing this that is 100% against your own health codes, multiple health codes. 23 protesters today, and still as of right now of recording, have taken to the rooftop of Strath Meats Abattoir, an hour outside of Adelaide, Australia, in a town near Strathalbyn. I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly. The 23 activists had this to say in a video, and they are refusing to come down off the roof until their demands are met. And they're not asking for anything that big. They want a tour of the inside of the facility. If these people are so proud of what they do every day for a living, there's no reason activists or anyone shouldn't be able to go inside and visit where people's food is being created. Food. And the Slaughterhouse company put out a statement. Basically, I'm not going to read it verbatim. It basically just says, we employ a lot of people in the area and we've been doing this for 50 years. Yeah, so who gives a shit? It's over. Move on to something else. The animal welfare activists are led by Chris Delforce, according to this article anyway. And it looks like from the signage they put on the roof, they are a force within or behind the Dominion movement, which is basically the Australian version of Earthlings, if you haven't seen it, which actually I haven't either. I need to get on that. But that's all the info that was available in the article, and there hasn't been too much more going around. Not that I've seen anyway. I'm going to investigate it a little bit more on social media. I'm sure more will come out as this develops. But kudos to them. They've made the mainstream news in Australia. They've taken over the roof of a slaughterhouse. They're broadcasting live to social media. They're doing a great job. They're taking a stand for what they believe in, and that's the best any of us can ever do. And our douche bag of the week is back. Well, not like one particular one, just we haven't done this in a while. Not because there hasn't been douchebags, but more because, I'm not really sure why. We need to make sure we do this again from now on. Our douchebag of the week is Samuel Arioya. Yeah, it's gonna be. Take a look at this clip. Why did the SPCA come and get them?
There is a law in Philadelphia about chickens, right? Like, you cannot raise chickens unless you have 3-acre property, right?
Yeah, so as you can see, the baby chicks, most actors were saying in the beginning about 800 to 1,000 were there. The SPCA in Philadelphia that still currently has these baby chicks is saying about 300. There's some discrepancy there. I'm not sure if a large amount had died. It wouldn't surprise me. Many were dead on the scene, or they were collected and placed in buckets. The humane officer was talking about citing this guy for each chick. Each chick is 9 days in jail, supposedly, from what I heard in the live video. But he has not been charged. You know what? I actually want to call him.
Thank you for calling the Pennsylvania SPCA, the Advocate for Animals since 1867. If you know your party's 3-digit extension, you may dial it at any time. For information...
Officer Wayne Smith, Humane Society Police Officer.
Is unavailable. Please leave your message after the tone.
Hello, Wayne Smith. My name is Brandon Kirkwood. I'm calling from Vegan News. I'm a journalist. I wanted to ask about the case in Philadelphia where the Samuel Ayayo... Alright, so I called him and left a message. Hopefully, I hear back at some point. But we have an entirely separate video for the douchebag of the week. Since it was such a big thing, and I called and spoke to the guy the day of this incident happening when it was still fresh, and he gave me an interview. At the end, he backpedaled and was, I don't think he was happy with the way the interview went because he, talked about suing me and stuff, but whatever. So go ahead and click that link and you can go get the full interview and see what he did. Nothing graphic, as always. Let's move on to our story of the week. So our story of the week is probably going to come as no surprise. I thought about making this its own separate video, but no. If you haven't heard, a hurricane hit North Carolina and the East Coast. An estimated 3.4 million chickens and 5,500 pigs drowned in their CAFOs, confined animal feeding operations, for those who don't know. The videos, I'm not going to show because, again, we usually try our best to avoid graphic things, but I will link to Daniel Turbert's Facebook Live videos in the description of this video, where you can see just thousands of chickens floating out of these CAFO sheds and down rivers and down just where it's flooded everywhere. And one of the most heartbreaking videos on his page right now that I was actually watching live when it occurred was the fact that a farmer, you're not a farmer if you're killing animals, showed up after activists including Daniel Turbert, people from Ziggy's Rescue, people from Brother Wolf Sanctuary, Jay, lots of people were there, and they got these pigs. They went into water contaminated by the feces in the hog lagoons everywhere, all over that part of North Carolina, risking all kinds of disease and sickness for themselves to pull these pigs out. Now keep in mind, these pigs cannot be sold for food, at least for some distance of time, if ever. But the farmer wanted them back just to spite the vegans. They were literally loaded up on a truck, about to go to sanctuary where they would spend the rest of their lives pain-free and have a good life. And instead, this asshole took them back, laughed at the activists, the police assisted, and he's probably most likely going to kill them and dump them. If he doesn't, he's going to be killing them and selling them illegally. Because they were treading, for 3 days, they were treading a cocktail of disgusting sewage water mixed with chemicals, mixed with the pig shit lagoons from Smithfield and other pig farming operations. These pigs had no value to him. The only value they had was putting a smirk on his face and getting to be a dickhead about it. That link will be down below as well. And you can bet your ass this February when we're back in Tar Heel and we're raging against Smithfield, there'll be more of us. And every year there's going to be more. These operations are going to stop. Florence should put a big dent in what's happening, but maybe not, because this hasn't been learned previously over the years as this has happened over and over and over. It's an environmental disaster. And you know who picks up the cost for this? The taxpayers. The taxpayers do for the farmer and corporate welfare queens, because those are the real ones in this world. They're going to get millions and millions and millions of dollars of government assistance to get their so-called farms back in operation to pay for the murdered animals that were locked in sheds and drowned after treading water for days on end, and the environmental destruction and all the contaminated groundwater for humans and animals, along with all the contaminated streets and houses and everything else, will have to be picked up by the taxpayer too, but not entirely by the taxpayer, okay? Because a lot of homeowners are going to have to pay for these hazardous cleanups from the chemicals and the feces from these open pig cesspools themselves out of their own pockets, because insurance isn't going to cover all of that, even if they had flood insurance. I really, really hope the people of North Carolina are sick and tired of their lawmakers, their representatives that they vote for. You're voting for these people, okay? And if you're tired of the job they're doing, because they're doing a pretty shitty job, that they're only out for these corporations that are helping to destroy your natural resources, the area you live in, and cost you more as taxpayers so they can keep making profit that goes back to fucking China, because that's who owns Smithfield, the largest pork producer in the state, if not the country, and they're the ones responsible for most of these open shit lagoons, then I don't know what else to tell you. You have the power to change this. You have the power to make your legislators stop being assholes, to stop lying in their pockets from the lobbyists and the corporations that are doing this shit. And the best part of all is, when we began posting things on different social media platforms, tons of so-called farmers came out of the woodwork to tell us it was a lie. There was no dead pigs, there was no dead chickens, there was no shit in the water, shit lagoons aren't real. Really? Part of this was because we posted an example picture from a previous flood in Thailand years ago, and we even put a little caption at the bottom saying that it wasn't from Florence. But, you know, reading comprehension, that's pretty hard apparently. But then when we started posting the actual videos from Florence of thousands of dead animals, not a peep. They had nothing to say, nothing to post. So now, as they get to sit back for a year and do nothing and collect your money from hurricane relief, although the administration, a lot of them helped vote in, may not even give it to them, which is hilarious and super sad at the same time. And most of them I've ever spoken to don't even believe in the science of climate change. They don't believe in science in general usually, when that is what caused this. That is what caused this massive hurricane and the 4 other hurricanes behind it. Did you forget about that? There was 5 hurricanes at one time when this storm was hitting. That's insane, all directly behind it. These people are only hurting themselves, and it always blows my mind. The most vulnerable, hardworking people fuck themselves over so damn hard in this world, especially in this country, and I will never understand it. None of this is good for you or your state or the people living there, and definitely not good for the animals and the environment. There are so many more ways you could be making much more money, especially in the climate you live in. Start growing indoor organic vegetable farms. You know how much the markup is on that compared to animals? Tons of farmers have converted to that. Do it. Oh, that's it for this story. God. All right, guys, that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Now, one last thing before you go. Check out the links in the description. I created a store on Shopify. It's got all kinds of funny vegan shirts and stuff in it. Never done anything like this before, but it seemed there were really reasonable prices. The margins aren't huge or anything, but every little bit helps, so I figured I'd give it a shot. I've thrown it up on social media here and there, and I'm telling you guys about it. And don't forget to check out that separate video on the douche bag of the day. It goes into detail about everything, and the interview with him is actually kind of funny. A little infuriating, obviously, but there's some funny parts. All right, guys, love you so much. See you in the next video. Later.